To every girl with million dreams, welcome to the world of silent screams. A world where no eye gleams, for nothing here is the way it seems. You used to be innocent and safe, strong enough not to cave. Alas, you were smuggled in for trade, a lucrative trade, not a matter if decade. On and on for ages with no useful aid. A very good evening to our special guest speaker, Dr.Sunitha Krishnan, FICCI FLO National President, Ms. Jahnabi Phookan, the Presidium members of the governing body, and my dear FLO members. I, Riya Chhabra, Chairperson FLO Indore, welcome you all to this national webinar. Today, human trafficking is a strange and sad truth in this modern world. It is one of the fastest spreading criminal activities globally and has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. And all this and more becomes a justified reason for all of us to applaud with pride for our speaker today, Padma Shri Dr. Sunitha Krishnan, for her phenomenal work of saving thousands of children and women from human trafficking and preventing second-generation prostitution by risking her life multiple times. As the co-founder of Prajwala, a pioneering anti-trafficking organization, she has been instrumental in rescuing more than 17,000 victims from sexual slavery. Prajwala's community-based education program has sensitized millions of people in gender relations. Dr. Sunitha has also stepped into filmmaking. Her films have won several international, national, and state accolades focusing on issues of trafficking, rehabilitation of survivors, rape, etc. The Government of India honored her with the fourth highest civilian honor, the Padma Shri, in 2016. And she has also been honored with Mother Teresa Award for Social Justice, Civicus Award Innovation Award, the Jaswini Award FICCI, DVF Exemplary Women Award, CNN IBN Real Hero Award, Reliance Foundation, and the list is literally endless. She was also recognized as 150 Fearless Women in the World by Newsweek. Let us all raise our hands in order to honor and express our extreme gratitude to Padma Shri Dr. Sunitha Krishnan. Since we are on Zoom, this is the only way we can express our love and admiration for her. Now, I would like to welcome Ms. Jahnabi Phookan, National President FLO and Director, JTI Group. As the 37th National President of FLO, Women Wing of FICCI, Jahnabi's focus is on sustainable livelihood for women economic empowerment. Jahnabi is an entrepreneur, a co-founder of two National Tourism Award-winning companies, Jungle Travels India and Assam Bengal Navigation Company under JTI Group. Her companies are encompassed in travel and hospitality, boutique river cruising, small group specialized tours, tea and textiles, all of which empower young people's livelihoods, especially women and their community. May I request Ms. Jahnabi Phookan to welcome our speaker and address the members and guests.
Thank you. Namaste. It was Oprah Winfrey who had said, "Turn your wounds into wisdom." Today, FLO takes pride in introducing you all to a personification of these very words. Padma Shri Dr. Sunitha Krishnan, founder of NGO Prajwala and social activist, I welcome you on behalf of FLO and the 17 chapters that I represent as the 37th National President. FLO has had the privilege of having you speak with us last in 2014 in the headquarters. This year, we wanted to create an inspirational learning platform for our members pan-India. The idea of the Eminent Women series was born, and you are our fifth thought leader for this series. Dr. Krishnan, you are a fearless woman and a real life hero. You have been threatened, stalked, and beaten countless times, but no one could break your inner strength and the power of your mind. In 2016, you were awarded India's fourth highest civilian award, the Padma Shri, for your work in the areas of anti-human trafficking and social policy. In 1996, you had co-founded Prajwala, an NGO that rescues, rehabilitates, and reintegrates sex trafficked victims into society. Your NGO works on the 5 pillars of prevention, protection, rescue, rehabilitation, and reintegration. In the website of Prajwala, I found some very disturbing statistics. 18 million women and children are involved in sexual slavery in India. 2 lakh women and children are forced into prostitution through threats and coercion each year. 65,000 children below the age of 16 are trafficked each year. Some of them are as young as 5. 90% of trafficking in India happens interstate. Only 10% of the trafficking is international. The stories of these victims that Prajwala rescues are horrifying and a testament to the utter inhumanity that we are capable of. But in your rescue facility, Asha Niketan Center, they are provided with a new world, new opportunities, and a way to live life without any fear. You have been instrumental in making it possible for NGO organizations to jointly manage a range of protective and rehabilitative services for women and children who have been trafficked for commercial exploitation. You, Dr. Krishnan, have pioneered several path-breaking campaigns, such as the Movement Against Trafficking, MAT, Men Against Demand, MAD, the first ever campaign against sex offenders in the country, with the hashtag of Shame the Rapist campaign, the Swaraksha Community Awakening campaign created. You have been in the forefront of working for the victims of sex trafficking and bringing about legal reforms in the state, in the country. In 2003, the first ever anti-trafficking policy in the country was implemented by the state of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana under GOMS1. Your brainchild, Nirbhaya, the Kerala state policy in 2011 to fight sexual crimes and sex trafficking, is widely recognized as a unique policy to fight this grievous crime holistically. Your story as a survivor, as a fighter, determined to bring about change and about starting a conversation that no one wants to talk about. Today, we look forward to hearing from you about your inspiring journey of strength and courage. My congratulations to Indore Floor Chapter, Riya, Chhabra, for giving us this opportunity to listen to you and to honor you in our series. Dr. Krishnan, as a token of our appreciation and gratitude, we have a congratulatory video and a virtual memento for you. May I request IT to please show it on the screen. Thank you.
मुट्ठी में कुछ सपने लेकर भर कर जेबों में आशाएं, दिल में है अरमान यही कुछ कर जाएं, कुछ कर जाएं। सूरज सा तेज नहीं मुझ में, दीपक सा जलता देखोगे। सूरज सा तेज नहीं मुझ में, दीपक सा जलता देखोगे। अपनी हद रोशन करने से तुम मुझको कब तक रोकोगे, तुम मुझको कब तक रोकोगे। मैं उस माटी का वृक्ष नहीं जिसको नदियों ने सींचा है। मैं उस माटी का वृक्ष नहीं जिसको नदियों ने सींचा है। बंजर माटी में पल कर मैंने मृत्यु से जीवन खींचा है। मैं पत्थर पर लिखी इबारत हूं, मैं पत्थर पर लिखी इबारत हूं। शीशे से कब तक तोड़ोगे, मिटने वाला मैं नाम नहीं। तुम मुझको कब तक रोकोगे, तुम मुझको कब तक रोकोगे। इस जग में जितने जुल्म नहीं, उतने सहने की ताकत है। इस जग में जितने जुल्म नहीं, उतने सहने की ताकत है। तानों के भी शोर में रहकर सच कहने की आदत है। मैं सागर से भी गहरा हूं, मैं सागर से भी गहरा हूं। तुम कितने कंकड़ फेंकोगे, चुन चुन कर आगे बढ़ूंगा मैं। तुम मुझको कब तक रोकोगे, तुम मुझको कब तक रोकोगे। झुक झुक कर सीधा खड़ा हुआ, अब फिर झुकने का शौक नहीं, झुक झुक कर सीधा खड़ा हुआ, अब फिर झुकने का शौक नहीं।
Thank you. Dr. Krishnan, Riya, would you like to start?
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, unmute.
Thanks, Jahnabi, and a very warm welcome to Flo Sunitha ji. I would now like request National President Flo, Ms. Jahnabi, to start the session with the first question.
Thank you. Dr. Krishnan, an integral part of your personality is your smile. Behind that smile, but is the story of strength and courage. Many in your circumstances would have lost hope, but now you're the one who gives hope to many. Where did you bring that courage from, defying all odds? How did that happen for you? Do tell us. Dr. Krishnan?
Dr. Krishnan, are you there?
Lost her link.
I think there's a power cut from her side.
Yes. I think she's back. I'll just repeat the question when she comes on.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Krishnan, please unmute yourself.
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, there's a massive power failure and I was expecting any minute. Extremely sorry. Riya, you were supposed to ask me the first question.
Yes,
Right.
Jahnabi, to start.
May I start the question?
Yes.
So, Dr. Krishnan, Sunitha, if I may, I know a very integral part of your personality is your smile. Behind that smile is a story of strength and courage. Many in your circumstances would have lost hope, but you are the one who gives hope to many. How did you bring about that courage, defying all odds? Do tell us.
Jahnabi ji, first of all, thank you for such a beautiful introduction. I'm so humbled, and it also makes me feel very emotional because I'm sitting here in my office when I speak to you. And so usually in this space, all that you usually get is abuses and filth thrown at you. It's rarely that I sit in this place, in this chair, and get somebody speaking nice about me. So and it's the first time I'm experiencing that. So it's kind of slightly emotional for me. Usually I go to a stage to receive an award, but when I come back home and sit in this chair, it's back to all the chupples and slippers and abuses and things like that. And today has been very, very uniquely a little more stressful than many other days. So I had to testify against a trafficker, and the trafficker was very, very violent, even in a virtual setting. So it was very, very painful to go through that. But thank you so much. Flo and FICCI has been such a big part of my life for the last few years. And every time I come to your platforms, I gain so much of strength and so much of rejuvenation for my own energies, in terms of I know I'm in the right track and I'm doing it rightly. And that is a kind of affirmation of my mission from Flo. I think I'm a very blessed soul. And the secret behind my smile is the blessings that I have. Unlike most people, I am blessed to meet and interact and live with thousands of young women, young girls who have survived the worst of humanity. I see it. I'm blessed to see it every day, which none of you all are blessed. You know, for me, I'm blessed with to see a young child of 5 or 6 years old who has been raped in a brothel for say 20 times a day for 6 months, 7 months, raped by hundreds of men, yet having the generosity of the spirit to let go and, you know, kind of embrace me, trust me, believe in me, and, you know, kind of become part of a very transformative, miraculous relationship of love and hope. You know, I'm I see these miracles every day in my life. So how can I be not courageous? How can I not smile? Because I am seeing the beauty of humanity around me every minute of my life. As much as I am aware and I'm rooted in the brutality of humanity. The organized crime of human trafficking is one of the most brutal crimes that one can imagine. It's the second largest organized crime in the world. It's not just a social issue. It's not an issue about vulnerability. It's not just an issue about social inequality, but it is also a business and industry for many. So you're talking about $857 billion industry, you know, next to drugs and arms, which means there are big stakeholders here. So, you know, your work, your domain of interaction and your engagement is not just about some welfare activity that you're doing, but it is about actually taking a huge business bull by the horns and deal with it. And thankfully, because I see such courage around me, which facilitates the courage in me to come out every minute of the day. You know, um, few months back, we dealt with a case
Yes.
where this young child, around 9 years old, was so brutally and so horrifyingly raped in the brothel that her intestine came out. And, you know, when we did the rescue, we were just running around just to stitch her up. And every minute that you run, you know, and you are actually reaching, giving her, ensuring that she's getting the medical attention and the support that she requires and things like that, something inside you also coming out in full force. All the strength that you possess as a person, all that you have seen and you have experienced, all that also comes out, which becomes a very core conviction to fight. And the fact that you see the child every other day in your life, you know that you have to continue the fight.
Yes.
You cannot stop the fight. It cannot be something like, I'm doing it today and I'm now, okay, now I'm done and I'm going off. It doesn't happen that way. That child, her trust, her faith in you reminds you that you have to be strong and you have to keep doing what you have to do.
That is, you know, it's so, we hear about these stories, but unless we see it face to face, like we're listening to you, it makes all of us conscious about how much we all need to also speak up and raise our issues on it. So my second question really to you was on this, about the Prajwala, when you started with a Catholic brother, which means eternal flame. And then you began to work on what you call the sexual violence, which is the most pervasive form, the prostitution that you spoke about, and of the inhumanity that's been meted out to women and children. So how much more can be done if these rapes are taking place on the brothels like this? Does it not call for more changes in the government's policy? What else has to be done? This is what this rape which is happening within these, for children as well, we were not aware. So it's how much has happened and how much can the government do? Is there any other legislation or any other way which has helped them out?
I think, Janviji, one must understand that while the problem is an organized crime and it's a larger industry, it is rooted in our vulnerabilities and it is rooted in us. So if a 4-year-old child is getting raped in a brothel, or if there is a 10-year-old child who's in demand in a brothel, whether it is in Hyderabad or in Delhi or in Indore or anywhere else, it also means there's a man who's asking for the child. There's a man who is saying that I want to have sex with a 4-year-old child and I'm willing to pay anything from it. Now, where does this man come from? He does not come from the outer planet. He does not come from somewhere else. He's our own brother. He's our own son. He's our own son. So if you believe in true change, and if you want to really bring change, it cannot happen with the government. That is something that we need to take it out from our brain. If the change has to come, it has to come from our own families. Today, the biggest problem that we are facing, thanks to COVID pandemic, is an escalated increase in online trafficking. Online cyber trafficking is today become the norm of the day, which means that any child who's got access to internet and access to online means is vulnerable, which means your child, your grandchild, your near and dear one is equally vulnerable. It's not that poor child anymore. Who are the buyers? They are the men around us. And that is why today, for once, we need to acknowledge that we are the problem. And if we have to become part of the solution, then we need to start taking stock on where we are going wrong in bringing up our kids, whether our girl children or our boy children. How do we bring up our sons? How do we bring up our daughters? These are questions that each parent needs to ask. All that the government can do is after the problem is over. There is a victim, there's, a trafficker. So the crime is already happening. But all that all of us can do is, prevent the problem from happening itself. If we can change the mindset of our men, not to consume porn, not to commodify a woman's body as a sex object that can be bought and sold, and it means the kind of films we patronize, kind of advertisements we patronize, kind of thinking that we have in our own families. I don't know how they say it, blue is for girls and something is for boys. All these, I don't know, different things that we create, constructs of femininity and masculinity, and make, a very kind of invisible kind of a messaging that a girl is an object which can be easily traded for. These are something that we need to challenge within ourselves. What the government can do is create a framework for the crime and the criminals to be. But that will never solve the problem. The problem also cannot be solved by Sunitha, Krishnan and Prajwala. Problem will become, will begin to solve itself when each one of us, everywhere, wherever we are, whether we are rich, we are poor, we are business tycoons, or we are whatever domain of space we are in, even I wouldn't say just a homemaker, but even a homemaker has a great role to play. So every human being has a role to play. And until unless we don't recognize that, I don't think there can be any change.
Absolutely true. Totally agree with you, Sunitha ji. Before I move forward, we have past presidents Renuka Shah ji and Usha Agrawal ji with us. And I would like to invite them if they have some question. IT team, can you please unmute them? Renuka ji and Usha ji.
Yeah, hi. Hello, yeah, tell me.
We have Usha Agrawal ji with us or Renuka Shah ji. Okay, I'm going to move forward. So Sunitha ji, my next question to you is, you have rescued more than thousands of girls from getting trafficked. What do you think is the reason that drives women to such situations? Is it poverty or social constructs or lack of options? What do you have to say about it?
So let me first start with a few corrections in the numbers. I now realize that I should have sent my detailed information to you all. My remaining aloof in own work and being very communicative in terms of numbers is a reason for the wrong numbers to come out on the screen. We've rescued 23,000 women and children out of prostitution. And we have prevented close to 13,000 children from being inducted into prostitution. So that's the kind of small numbers that we are talking about. Coming to, what are the reasons that trigger trafficking? Trafficking is rooted in the vulnerability of a person. So poverty could be a vulnerability, so be it. Emotional vulnerability is another huge factor. So there are one whole lot of people who get trafficked because there are economic compulsions and there are constrained choices in their lives and they don't see any other option. It could be a young girl living in a village where there's intermittent flood and then drought, and they are in multiple debt traps, and you're in an absolute vicious cycle of debt traps, and somebody comes and says, we'll give you a job. It is so easy to get trapped into that situation. Marriage is another modus operandi that has been used widely meaning in the last 1 week, we have been dealing with a very interesting case of this young man who was married 13 times in 6 months.
Oh my God.
So his modus operandi is very interesting. He would go to villages, remote villages, and he's very good looking and very, very charming. And so he is this suave looking guy going to villages saying that I'm working in the city, I've got a good job, and there's a lady also with him. So there's this lady whom he claims is the mother, and they go to the villages and they speak, there's a very good job in the city, and I am like very, well off, and I'm financially well off. But all that I need is a good girl from the village. I'm not interested in money. I'm not interested in dowry. This word dowry is a key factor here. Now, while, for the rich, it is gifts that you would give. But that aspiration is for the poor too, and they're compelled and forced to take out money to get their daughters married. So when a family listens to this and says, okay, wow, somebody is coming here and they don't want dowry, and what a paragon of virtue this boy is, so easy for them to be trapped. And the fact, actually, the parents are actually on a platter handing over their daughter to this man. So how did the story come out? 4 of the girls that he had trafficked unfortunately landed up in my shelter at the same time. And all of them had the same story. They had the same name of the husband. And they all had, कि मेरा पति इतना अच्छा आदमी है, उसकी थोड़ी तकलीफें थी तो एक बार जाने के लिए बोला मुझे. Everybody had the same एक बार. So even when they were trafficked, the girls did not know that this is a trafficker. That is the way he has managed the situation. They are groomed or manipulated to believe that, they're doing a big, sacrifice. We are the, Pativrata Naris of India who are supposed to be super balidaning for your families. So now here is a woman giving the supreme sacrifice for her husband, selling herself for once, and we don't know how many times that once would have been. It's only when all the 4, we matched it and we checked the photograph of the husband, it turned out to be the same husband. And that is when all the 4 girls are realizing that they were cheated by the same man. So marriage has been used extensively to trap people coming from very economically disadvantaged families. But aspirations and emotional aspirations to get fame, to get name also has been used very, very commonly. You have lower middle class girls who are not economically challenged. It's not that they're starving or they don't have anything. All that is, they also want to become an Aishwarya Rai. They also want to become a Deepika Padukone. And when somebody says, oh, you're so gorgeous, you dance so well, I will make you a heroine and I will take you there. It's so easy to trap you in, But another whole world of emotional vulnerability today we see among the middle class and the upper middle class. And that is happening through online means. So here we've seen traffickers spotting people through their Facebook profile, spotting people through their Instagram pictures, and the kind of photographs that you post on Instagram, on social media, is actually indicative of your personality. And they actually profile that and find out who is a vulnerable personality. Like, for example, if I have to give you a very small example, a very continuous, consistent selfies with a pout like this, you know, all those photographs is a very indicative photograph that of your own loneliness. And you don't have anybody, you yourself are picking your own pictures, and only those pictures are seen. That is how they spot vulnerable personalities. And we had a very, very strange case of this civil servant's daughter. Mother is a doctor, both very, very occupied professionals, very busy people. They had given the best of everything to their daughter, including a laptop and internet access. Child is just 13 years old. She becomes friends with somebody on Facebook, start chatting with this person, and this is not a boy, it is a woman. That is a profile picture. So there's no danger signals, you know, it's like, it's a very nice woman whom she's talking to. Over the few weeks, they become good friends. And then this girl starts talking, you know, becoming very close to this woman and says, okay, you know, I am very uncomfortable about my body. You know, my classmates tease me. My peer tease me because they call me gooseberry because a very small breast. So what does this lady say? Says, put on your webcam. I will tell you how to increase your breast size. I will show you how to do exercises of your body to increase your breast size. So for the next 6 weeks, this child is masturbating on the screen in the name of exercise. And she did not even think that anything is happening to her. She is comfortable with this person. There's no sense of, you know, is something going wrong or things like that. It's only at the end of 6th week when her cousin, who browses porn sites, found her cousin's video of masturbation, that the entire thing came out. Now, cyber trafficking has a different face, unlike offline trafficking. In the offline trafficking, you have a man who is touching you, you see an organizer, you see a pin, you have a customer who comes and violates you. Here is another scenario where you're getting violated, all right? You're getting commercially violated because your video is being sold. It's a paid site and people are paying for that video. So there's sexual exploitation, there's commercial exploitation, but there's nobody to touch you. There's no penetration, there's nobody who's, and this can happen to anybody. So cyber trafficking has changed the entire discourse on what are the reasons why human beings get sold. So, you know, emotional exclusion and a sense of, you know, being and not having anybody to discuss about my own growing up, my own issues, could also lead to trafficking of persons today. And thanks to COVID pandemic, that's in full force at this moment. And therefore, today trafficking is not just about them, it's about all of us. And it's not just about economic disadvantages. Yes, economic disadvantages continue to be a vulnerability factor. Caste and community continues to be a vulnerability factor. There are communities in our country who believe that selling their daughter is part of their community trade. So auctioning a girl child at the age of 7 or 8 is considered as a community practice. Yes, all that is as much true as much as the fact that today we as the middle class is also equally vulnerable to be trafficked. And therefore the reasons that is happening with us is another set of reasons than the reasons about that Dalit girl or the tribal girl.
That's just horrifying and disturbing to, you know, just listen to this incident. And I think we just all, what required is to be sensitized, which you're already doing, and a lot more is required and needed. And you were talking about this pandemic, which is, you know, because of this pandemic, the trafficking has been skyrocketed. So my next question is on that. United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, you know, DC had stated that COVID-19 measures may lead to an increase in cross-border trafficking and human smuggling. What's your take on it, and what should the government do to curb it?
So, Riya, I'm just going to answer somebody else's question on the chat as I'm starting to answer your question too. The girl is safe, but we've not been able to, help her recover so much. At this moment, she is going through, I can't even describe to you the kind of guilt and shame that she's going through. She's refusing to even come outside our house because she believes everybody has seen her video. And especially about online trafficking, I'm stressing on this again and again in different ways because in offline trafficking we have seen a lot of success in terms of recovery and rehabilitation. But in online trafficking, the situation sometimes can become very irreversible. Any content generated online cannot be destroyed ever. You can block a site, but if I have to download that video and put it on my mobile and store it somewhere else on a pen drive or a hard disk, I still have the content with me. You cannot completely remove that content. And that is the irreversibility of the situation. And this child is right now not responding to any support system because she believes that every human being on the street has seen her video. And so everybody is judging her by her body and things like that at this moment. And so it's become very, very difficult for us to deal with the child. And it's become equally difficult for us to deal with the parents because the parents do not want to report the case and, get it tackled because they say, anyway, nobody is touched, right? So there's not been it's not like you've been raped, you can just forget this. This is a bad nightmare and we'll get on. So that is the situation of the child. Coming to the question, Riya, that you asked about UNODC's cross-border trafficking, I do think the trafficking as a whole has increased 100-folds thanks to the COVID pandemic. The economic devastation has hit everybody in a big way. So the vulnerable and the marginalized have become more vulnerable and more marginalized. You see an increasing trend of parents coming forward to sell their children upfront. Meaning in the last 5 months, I have dealt with at least 18 cases of parents selling their 5 days infant baby or things like that, just like that, because they just couldn't manage. There's no employment, there's no coming from anywhere, everything is like stuck. And so baby was born 5 days back, we already have a child, so we can sell this baby off. That is something that we're seeing in a huge number. Last week, we rescued 3 minor children, all sold by their own family members. And that is a very, very worrying part. Before COVID pandemic, we had 40% of the girls being sold by family members. Today, I would say around 60 to 65% have close family members. Whether the cross-border trafficking has increased, yes, from Bangladesh, yes, because the borders are porous. So in spite of all the mobility restriction between countries, thanks to COVID, and there's a flight restriction, but the borders are porous, So if you go to any place in 24 Pargana or in, the Binapol area in West Bengal, it's like you just have to just jump and you'll be inside Bangladesh, just like one step this side and you're inside Bangladesh. So yes, the flow of Bangladeshi girls to India has increased manifold, but I wouldn't say that of every country. Previously, before COVID pandemic, we used to have huge number of girls coming from Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, and other parts of Eastern Europe. Now that is stopped for a while, but the trafficking within the country, which is the larger problem that we have, 92% of the problem is inside the country, between states and between the district. That is a 100% increased 100-fold, and that's increasing every day. So, and it's becoming very difficult for organizations like us to work, because going for a rescue means we are also risking our lives to become COVID infected.
Correct.
So whether we should go for a rescue or not has become a big challenge. Even if we rescue, we can't bring them to and keep them in our shelter. We have 4 shelters, one with the government and 3 that we manage ourselves. So we have all in all around 600 residents in the shelter, which includes around 250 children and 350 adults. So if you bring in somebody from outside, and if that person is COVID positive, you are, risking 600 lives. So we are forced to set up quarantine facilities now. We are forced to set up isolation facilities right now. So COVID-19 has brought in multiple problems, not just the trafficking has increased, but even the resources to do to counter trafficking has become a huge challenge today.
Of course, I think rescuing has also become have slowed down because of the lockdown. Then
Yes. Mobility restriction definitely has impacted, has definitely impacted the movement of human beings coming here, but it has not stopped.
absolutely, and I think these
While the businesses have closed and everything is closed, but not the traffickers. They
yes.
are still doing very well, and I think their industry has not suffered.
Correct. And I think the massive livelihood issues because of the pandemic
Yes.
has
Yeah.
also increased the whole thing. Moving on, next we have past President Vinita Bimbit with us to ask the question. Please, IT team, please unmute her.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me ask a question. Thank you, Jahnabi and Riya. What an awesome program. Sunitha, I am very rarely left speechless, but I am left speechless by what people can do. And I'm absolutely privileged to talk to you today for doing the kind of work that you're doing. I think rape is the ultimate offense. And I mean, against children, it is something that I don't think anyone, it's really, really horrific. There are 2, 3 things that I wanted to ask you. One is, what makes a person do a heinous crime such as this? I mean, a 9-year-old child, 5-year-old child. Is there something that one should be doing? I mean, I know attackers, when they are doing this, there must be something in their sight to humiliate this little child. It must be something that's gone wrong either as part of society or while they were growing up. Is there something that one can do in terms of education? And secondly, the question I wanted to ask you is, what is the punishment today being given to rapists, of children specifically?
I'll start with your second question. Death penalty is the minimum punishment for a rape of any child below the age of 12. So death penalty is part of our criminal justice system. Why does this happen, and why do men do what they do? I think there are a lot of sick people in our society. There are pedophiles who need help. We don't have any system of sex offenders support to change their mindset and things like that. In our country, that is not even in its nascent stage. That we identify this as a mental health issue. That there are men who crave this kind of bestiality. Not just about children, even for women, because if you listen to the stories of young women who have been in a brothel, and listen to the kind of men who have come to buy sex from them, you wonder, meaning, is this possible? Meaning, what kind of man is this who's putting cigarette all over your body, or taking a belt and beating you up, or taking a blade and slashing you out and things like that? So obviously there is a lot of there are a lot of sick people among us. that needs to be addressed. But much more than that also is the fact that we are somewhere not bringing up our sons rightly. You know, somewhere the sense that, you know, kind of your power is exercised when you crush a woman, or you rule a woman, or you know, crush something which is more powerless than you, is kind of, you know, so, and that starts from small things, right? And in our own families we give a doll to our daughters and a gun to our son, or a car, you know, a car to our son. We kind of starting a messaging there saying that you like a doll here and he's this macho guy. So the construct of macho thing over the period of time in many people goes in the right track, but many others takes very perverted forms, you know. So my mardangi is coming from, you know, taking over you or holding you, or so when it's a child, you are exercising your power to the fullest, because a child's cries gives you that sense of, oh my God, I'm the most Superman in the world kind of feeling. That macho feeling comes from our own messaging and our own, you know, construct of masculinity that all of us are part of. And I keep saying these very generic things because I want us to understand that all of us are somewhere part of this problem. And, you know, it is because when we start looking for solutions for them, we then miss ours, and we miss our own, you know, remedial things that we need to do for our own selves. Somewhere we need to change the discourse. When we talk about rape, for example, you know, rape intervention, there was a Nirbhaya case, there was a Disha case, there was that case, there was this case. All of us then are teaching our girls to do karate, you know. Then we are giving everybody pepper spray. Okay, come on, now go and do pepper spray. So what are we teaching our daughters? Be scared. You know, keep watching over your shoulders every minute. You have to be paranoid. You know, anytime you could be attacked from anywhere. None of us thought that we will only talk about men. Why weren't intervention, you know, organized only for the boys? You know, today when there is a scandal in Delhi, the boys' locker, one is all like, oh my God, this is the kind of things that boys talk among each other. But do we know that, you know, most of the young boys from the age of 10 and 11 are talking like that? This came out in public domain. The several doesn't come in. So it is high time that we engage with men and boys. And that is where, and men and boys is not those men and those boys. Should start with our men and our boys, you know. Something as simple as pornography, you know, it gratifies whatever for few people, and for us we think it's a harmless thing. After all, you see it, you feel good and finish. But we don't realize consuming that kind of material and content actually sexualizes your brain. Some men, some human beings are able to control that sexualization feeling. There are others which goes beyond it. And so how much of investment do we do on our own spiritual learnings and building our own character, which says that even if I'm sexualized, seeing these images, I'm able to control my thinking to say this is right and wrong. For that right and wrong to happen, you know, your atmic, what you say, your spiritual convictions, you know, whichever faith we follow, has to be very strong, you know. How many of us actually invest in those kind of things? We invest of so much of money in coaching and that coaching and this coaching, but do we really put in that much of investment of our time and energy in building our character and values and qualities, you know, which are actually the deciding factor sometimes of that right and that wrong, you know, that 1 minute decision where your conscience is awakened to such a thing that when you even see something very tempting, you know that's not right and you have to look away, you know. We need to start investing in our spiritual growth too, no matter which faith we come from. That is something also, because sometimes when I see the kind of crimes that I'm dealing with, and by the way, I deal with 25 to 30 cases a month, you know, which means practically one case a day. And one of the things that you feel is the sense of impunity that we have given the offenders. The person thinks that I can do this and get away with this, no problem. Nothing is going to happen to me. Who gives them that confidence? We give them that confidence. We create, while a victim of rape has to, and I can say that with much authority because I've survived gang rape myself. You are dealing with hiding your face. You're expected to live and die in shame. You are supposed, one social gathering that we went, one gentleman comes and shake hands with my husband and says, thank you for rehabilitating her. So you're looking right on my face. I'm standing there, So a rape victim is supposed to be somebody who requires rehabilitation and a savior to kind of, thing. Whereas the rapist is Maryada Purushottam Ram, he's like thing. Who created that? We created that. We know how to shame a victim. We know how to talk behind her back. We know how to say, oh my God, this is happening to her. How are these people, the way these girls are becoming so far forward. We know all that. Why is she wearing that dress? Why did she go in the night? Who asked her to go with a boyfriend? These are the 1,000 questions we know how to ask. Nobody is asking, why did those blokes come out there and look at this girl this way? What made that man put that rod inside her vagina? We don't ask these questions, right? Okay. So we don't change our own discourse and narratives. Nothing is going to change. So change has to happen. I keep saying this again and again, and sorry for being so repetitive. Change has to happen with our own selves. I have to be the change that I want to see in this world. And it has to start from each one of us.
True, absolutely true. Next we have is another past president, Namita Gautamji. Can we please unmute her? Namita Gautamji, IT team, please unmute her.
I am there. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes,
We
we can hear you.
you, Namita ji. Yes.
So,
Please go ahead.
hello, Sunitha. कैसी हैं आप?
बस ठीक ठाक हूँ, Namita ji. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I heard you first time 10 years ago when Young Flo had felicitated you with the
Yes.
Achievers Award.
Yes.
After that, I have communicated with you. And I think that the time passes, but so many things remain unchanged. I remember you could not come to one of our programs because you had a date. And today again, you have to go to the court. So things don't change. Coming back to the topic, and a serious topic as that, it's such a huge problem. Till one listens to you, one feels it's happening somewhere else. It is not happening in our society, but it is happening in some society which we don't belong to. So why is it? I'm sure if so much is happening, the government is aware of it and all, but we don't read even this incident that you told about the Facebook, that this girl became a friend. The cyber crime increasing so much, and why is there no awareness? So that was my one question. Second was that, is this trafficking gender specific to only girls, or even boys are trafficked? And I feel that the criminals' age is getting lower and lower. You read in the paper that 12-year-old is committing such a heinous crime. So my take on that is that maybe easy access to internet, pornography, and all sort of thing is having an impact. What do you have to say? And lastly, I would like to ask that as an organization, FLO, and as an individual, FLO members, what can we do? You have already told that we have to take care of our boys. That is something that we have, boys or grandsons or whatever, that is well taken. But what else can we do as an organization? Or
Sunitha ji, thank you so much. It's lovely to see you after so many years.
yes,
Definitely several things have changed, I must say. You know, because thanks to COVID, we can at least speak virtually to each other. You
yes,
know,
yes.
which did not happen before. We never thought that as an option. Now we have ensured that in spite of a court date, I can join you for this meeting, and
Sure.
court date has not come as an obstruction in our life. So COVID has definitely brought some good changes in our life. We have learned to connect in spite of restrictions. I think why is there no awareness? Because if we think that media caters to what we want and what our ideas are, it simply means that today we want to know only about what is happening to Riya Chakraborty. So that is the only story available on every media, you know, who's taken to that court and who's going taken to this court and what is the kind of things happening. So somewhere, you know, the larger electronic media or the print media do not find stories such as these worthy enough for TRP. And maybe who is the TRP? We are the TRP. We might not be, you know, liking some other stories. Like, you know, many years back, I produced a feature film, you know, which won several three national awards and 4 state awards. It's called this Na Bangaru Talli. It won 18 international awards. And a very, very well-meaning, very well-connected lady told me, Sunitha, even if I had an, if somebody gave me a big lottery, I would not see your movie. And I was like taken aback. I says, you know, why would you say that? She says, you know, I know the stories about sex trafficking. I don't want to see that kind of a film. You know, it's going to be very difficult for me to see that film. You know? So we don't want to see or hear such issues. You know, we will not even. So that movie was made so that the world becomes more aware of these problems. But if 80% of the world refuses to see that movie, you know, how will I even end up creating that awareness? So if you see the profile of a movie list that all of us want to watch, we would rather prefer a rom-com or a masala movie where we are all jumping around and dancing around than a serious social concern on cyber trafficking or on any form of trafficking or rape, because that's so scary and frightening, you know. So long as we are in this denial mode, we will never be aware. You know, even in the newspaper, we will not see that small little column where the story is mentioned. We will only see this big, big story written in the front about these issues. So I think becoming aware is because is largely because we as consumers of information, we are so reluctant to take any real issues on board. And that is why several such stories only becomes a part of storytelling among the converted. So I know I will tell my colleague, NGO who knows, we will share stories and be happy with that, you know. Even if I have to be putting something on Facebook or on Twitter every day, which I do, you know, with all the work and everything that I do, I don't have more than 30,000 followers, you know. So you're not going to make me a hero like Shah Rukh Khan and have 3 million followers or 40 million followers, right? So it is whether we want to get this information or not, you know. We are very, very interested to know what did Taimur wear, how did he look when he went to that. That is something which we all want to know. Do we want to know that a 6-month baby is being raped? You know, how many people will actually see that tweet or post? So I would say that yes, information is constantly being put out, but there is nobody who makes those information viral, you know. Yes, if there is something bad going on about me, that will become viral, you know, definitely, you know, but not anything else. So I think we have become very selective, and if we seek those information, it's all there. It's all out there, both about cyber trafficking and things like that. Today, when I think what Flow can do to do this, there are 3-4 things that I would very strongly recommend. One is across the world, organizations like ours, individuals like me, we're going through huge amount of resource crunch. Funding has become a challenge. Thanks to economic devastation, thanks to this, huge amount of economic issues that everybody is going through, top to down. It is very important today in this pandemic time to find a way for the universe to conspire to ensure that our kind of interventions are sustained wherever they are. Whether it is Prajwala in Hyderabad or somebody else in Pune, somebody else in Indore, Lucknow, in your own local areas, if FICCI and FLO can identify the local players and support them and ensure that they are not forced to close down, that is something which is the need of the hour. Also, the need of the hour is, individuals like me, we are today becoming a huge threat. Somebody asked me in the chat box, what's the kind of threats I go through. In the initial years of my life, I went through very simple threats, that of people trying to kill me. That I thought was the simplest of the threat. People hitting you, beating you up, or trying to throw acid on your face, or doing something like that. Now I see those threats as simply jujube threats, nothing, nil. But the threats I face now is frightening. The whole world of people who will go to any extent to wipe you out. So now they will do anything. Like 2 years back, there was a huge conspiracy where journalists were paid to write an, kind of a international piece against me, to defame and discredit us, and a situation came. Luckily for me, I usually don't respond to many such things, but that particular, incident was so deeply scary for me that I decided to fight back. I took this international paper to the court, fought the battle, won the battle, got my compensation. So that story, most of you all will not even know, because I did not even allow it to go further, because we fought it out. But that is the kind of investment the traffickers are making. They are willing to pay any amount of money to discredit an intervention. So today there is a need for organizations like FLO and FICCI to actually stand up for these human rights defenders. Please do not play it safe. When you know, and when you know means you please know it perfectly. Do your due diligence. Not every NGO, not every crusader is a genuine one. You have to make that distinction, which means you have to come out of your comfort zones, go out there in the field, check on them, find out whether they are true, find out they're genuine or not, do your own diligence. But once you're convinced of that person, make sure that you stand up publicly for that person. Tell the world that here is somebody that we are backing. Our strength is all the, also with this person. This person is not alone. And that is happening across the country, which you have to do. I think a big role FLO can play is in prevention. We spoke very amorphously about dealing with men and boys. Can we create a module for that? Can we create a module for dealing with men and boys and take it to our schools? Convince our local schools to integrate, among other things like sex education, moral science, blah, 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 also special session for our boys, which FLO and FLO members in their time, which they can volunteer, can actually execute. But this is not rescue. This is not going and rehabilitating somebody. This is prevention, which you can also do, and going beyond your own families, collectivizing your strength. You've done a virtual program with me. Could you do a virtual program locally with young boys in a school? or college. But for that, do a systematic work of investing some time, 1 hour each every day to prepare a proper curriculum and a module for that, which is a flow module for all flow organizations across the country. Among several other social service that you will do, you will also do some program with the schools. These are small things that you can do to bring a huge change. Amplify our voices, make sure that people are forced to listen to us. Each one of you come from a position of power and of privilege. Don't look at me as a welfare model, oh, this poor little organization and poor this charity that can be support. Look at me as a partner, collaborator, whose voice you would like to amplify, so that the larger good of the entire world is together dealt. Because I can tell you honestly, Sunitha cannot change anything. Sunitha can only be a catalyst for change. If change has to happen, all of us have to join hands. Without that, nothing can happen. I will come, I will go. But all that we triggered today is what is going to be sustained through the ages. And today it's an important time for us to ask, what is the legacy that we want to leave behind? Do we want our grandchildren and generations after that also to be talking about trafficking, about the 2-year-old child who's sold, of that infant baby who is traded off because the parent cannot afford to feed? Do we want generation after generation to tell these stories, or do we want this to end with us? These are decisions that we have to take.
Thank you so much, Sunitha. It's a lot of food for thought, and I think your suggestions are quite doable for us. And on my personal level, I will talk to the president, and I think we will take it forward. This suggestion of doing sessions for boys, it is a very good suggestion. Some sort of a documentation, and then to spread the message and to train them. I think it's a very good suggestion and quite doable for Flow. We are 17, 18 chapters in cities. So at least we can do in our area of...
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure Sunitha ji, our past presidents, our president, and all the members and other chapter chairs have taken note of your suggestions, and we'll definitely work on it. My next question to you, Sunitha ji, is there would be many stories where recovering girls would have been really risky, and it would have been like a life and death situation. What was one of the most difficult rescue operation of yours?
Every rescue is difficult. Every rescue, no two rescues are the same. There's a pattern to most of the rescue work that we do in terms of gathering information, validating that information, which means that we send our decoys inside to find out whether the information is true or false. Because there's so much of network of enemies that you can get actually information to trap you also. So, you could be led on a wild goose chase, and, it just so that you can be beaten up and come out. So rescue, itself, the entire process of getting to the rescue itself is different for every case. Yes, sometimes there are some rescues that leave a very deep, imprint on your mind, not because the rescue was so great, but the fact that something happened during the rescue, which was very, very significant. And this particular rescue happened many, many years back. And it was in a place in Maharashtra called as Vani. And the rescue had begun, and our rescue team consists of survivor leaders who are rescue workers, and our professional staff, and the police. So police leads the rescue, and we support the thing. So our responsibilities are divided. The police takes care of the accused and the offenders there in the brothel. They are supposed to go and pick up all those characters, the pimp, the organizer, blah, 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 and everybody. They are supposed to sees the evidence in the crime scene and everything. And we who are the NGO partner in the rescue will look after the victims, identify the victims, spot the victims. So the rescue started, and as usual, there are some common things that happen during a rescue. As soon as you enter the place, invariably and inevitably, the trafficker or the organizer who is running the brothel will switch off the mains. So you're in complete darkness suddenly, you know, and all your lights are on. So you don't know from where you might get one fist on your nose or your ears or your back. So this is the scenario that you're dealing with. And you're also dealing with a scenario where people are hidden in false basements or false ceilings or false commodes. So, you know, one set of your team is crawling on their knees, you know, trying to find some crevices to open to see whether there is any false opening. So all kinds of drama is happening in this whole setup. And on that particular day, we pulled out 48 girls, and all of them minors. So it was like one big bizarre situation. People are running over us. You know, we are holding on to the victims, and you know, we are trying to take them. And practically the entire lot were put inside the bus that we had got for the victims. We had a separate bus, so we put it inside. One particular girl, refused to come. She held on to a bed, you know, the bedpost, and she just wouldn't come. And she was like crying and screaming, and it was like, oh my God, you know, it was a hell. We had to leave the place, rescue has to be done quickly, and you have to finish it and move quickly. Here is somebody who's blocking the entire space, and she just wouldn't budge. She's like holding on to the floor, and she says, I'm not coming. And then my people were in a state of panic. This is one girl is not coming. She looks around 14, 15 years old. She's not coming out, you know, and, what do we do? And I didn't know what to do. And I immediately told them, you know, there's one survivor. Her name is Noor Jahan in this team. I said, ask Noor to talk to her first. You know, let Noor sit and talk to her. All of you all come out. And when Noor started talking to her, this child said, this girl said, come, you know, we have to go. And she says, Mera bachcha unke paas hai. My baby is with them. And it's like, oh my God. Suddenly the entire scenario changes. Where is the baby? You know, there's nobody left out in this place. Where is the baby? He says, nahi, mere bacche ke bina main jaungi nahi. I will not leave this place without my kid. And then we spoke to the team leader, who's a police officer, and said, here is a bad situation. It seems that baby of this child is somewhere here, and we have to constitute a second rescue team to trace the baby now. So then we constituted a second rescue team, and then we are running around and around the place to search for this little baby. And we find this baby inside a water tank on top of the building. The baby is 6 months old, and baby is already in the water. She is blue, and we remove the baby out. It's just one mad situation. All of us are just running. I'm standing at the vehicle, to take this baby and the mother to the hospital. This is one team running to the hospital. Another team is taking the other lot to the police station. Anyway, we reached to cut the story short, we reached the hospital, and child was blue, and child was taken into the ICU immediately and everything. So after 3 days, the baby survived. It was a miracle that the baby survived. So after 3 days, I went back to see the baby, and was something that I was shocked to see on the baby's body was bite marks all over the child's body. And I was so angry. I caught this girl who's the mother of she's a child herself. And I said, ye kisne kaata hai and kaise hua ye sab? So then, by the 3 days, this mother child had gained a lot of trust in us. And she says, the brothel keeper would force her to go to the customers. When she wouldn't go to the customer, the brothel keeper had a dog. She will make the dog bite this child. So every time the dog bit the child, the girl, the mother child, went to a customer. I cannot ever forget this rescue. I can't forget this rescue because we never thought that something like this could happen. And when we have to rescue, we have to also recover the children of these girls. Today, this child has finished her mass communication. And hopefully, after this COVID pandemic is over, she will get a job as a journalist. We've come a long way from those days to now. But she still has those marks on her body of the bites of the dogs on her body, reminding her what happened to her, 21 years back. This year we are 25 years old. Prajwala is 25 years old. And this particular rescue became the reason for me to develop better protocols on how do we do a rescue. What are the things that we need to remember? What is the backup teams that we need to create? It changed the course of rescue operations for not just Prajwala, but for several other groups working with Prajwala doing this kind of rescues. So yeah, these are some of the, some of the things which became a triggering factor for many things to follow. For us, she was a medical miracle that she survived. Not only she survived, today she's one of the biggest miracles that I see every day of somebody who has completed her mass communication with a master's in mass communication and is a distinction holder in spite of what she went through as a 6-month baby.
That's really courageous of you, and I'm literally in tears right now listening to this. In fact, we all are just shocked to listen to this incident. It's really heartbreaking to what as these girls go through, what these children go through. Really something should be done for this. Everyone should take some action. I'm like speechless right now. I would like to move on and call again our National President Flo, Jahnabi Phookan, to ask her next question, please.
Jahnabi, before you ask me the next question, I'm just looking at these questions that's coming on the chat box. And I just want to very quickly say that, kidnapping and abduction is not so much used nowadays. It is grooming and manipulation. So whether it is middle class or upper middle class or the lower class, the actual taking a person, kidnapping and taking and selling them is just about mostly, at least 10 years backstory now. Today, in the last 10 years, the modus operandi is largely grooming and emotional manipulation, so much so that you don't even need to cage a person. If I can blackmail a person to do things like this for me, I don't need to even put 2 people around her to see that she doesn't run away, So kidnapping and abduction is something that does not happen so much today. I'm not saying it's not happening at all, but that is very, very rare. All these Mardani kind of stories are definitely good stories that happened 10 years back, but not so much now.
Sunitha, what about the other thing? There was a movie on this about the skewed sex ratio in our country, where the brides are sourced from really the Northeast, or the brides for men in Haryana. So that is a business. Is that also, that was not a prostitution, though, that's a different, another vehicle of movement altogether.
Absolutely. It is another form of sex trafficking, but not for the purposes of prostitution. But yes, sexual exploitation is a big part of that trafficking. The skewed sex ratio in states like Haryana has forced men to buy girls from Assam, Jharkhand, and other places, where this young woman is bought in the name of marriage, and then provided to the men in the community as a whole for procreation. So the girl would be getting raped by men after men after men, and her job is to keep, getting pregnant and giving babies to this community. And that's becoming a huge racket for the last few years. And a good number of girls from Assam, Jharkhand, Odisha are trafficked in the name of marriage. And the entire problem here is there's a whole
economic center of the day.
Yeah, the economics is so the organized crime from an economic scenario is not very clearly seen, but the sexual exploitation and the entire chain of people involved in the sexual exploitation is rather bizarre. And most of these women end up with severe cervical damages, and they die very young with a huge amount of reproductive tract infections and other issues. Yes, trafficking in the name of marriage, especially in several parts of northern states, is a very big issue right now.
Sunitha, what about the rehabilitation? When you've had the victims who you've been able to rescue and rehabilitated, are they being able to find a life if they are reskilled and brought back to mainstream? If they are empowered, if they have the livelihood, would that stop them? Can they go back to their hometowns and be able to earn their own, fill their own stomach, so that wasn't hunger or poverty that had driven them away from their places? Is that the answer? Ostracization. I must tell you about this documented story in Assam again, when this man went to Mumbai and found his wife and brought her back.
Yeah.
Because he had why she was sold away, but the village wouldn't take her back.
Yeah.
So he was ostracized, and they left and they live in the outskirts. And instead of making this man a champion, I think if we applaud such men, make champions out of these men, that may change another narrative. Instead, he is abused, he is ostracized, and that family cannot go back to the village, and she's a rescued woman from Mumbai.
Yeah. Rehabilitation, Chandiji, is a complicated combination of several factors. So rehabilitation is not just livelihood. There's a whole world of psychological rehabilitation one is looking at. Yes. To set in motion the pace of recovery from within, of coming in terms with betrayal, the entire destruction of trust, the violation of your body, the violation of your body, mind, and soul that happens. So rehabilitation starts with a whole lot of psychological recovery, which is sometimes panning over several years. It doesn't happen in a few months, which sometimes becomes the deciding factor for several things. But rehabilitation does not start until the body is prepared to start the process. And unfortunately, with sex trafficking, the biggest problem that we have is that the person, when rescued, comes with a whole package. You're an alcoholic, you're a substance abuser, you have multiple infections in your body, you could be infected with HIV/AIDS, you might have reproductive tract infections, you might have traumatic brain injuries, you have multiple other health concerns. So all these have to be resolved for the body to be prepared to get into a psychological recovery mode. But having set in motion the psychological recovery, the next part of the recovery process is gaining back your identity. So, the psychological recovery process in the rehabilitation spectrum is not just about inner healing, but it's also about gaining life skills. Like if I have been in a brothel for say 6 years, where day in and day out, I have been only told you have to attract somebody, So you have to, like in my house, I'm told sit like this and sit like that, because this is the right way to sit. You ask your children to put your legs together, right? You're not asking girls to keep their legs wide open and sit. You would say that's not the right way to sit. That's not the ladylike posture to sit. But in a brothel, you're asked to sit differently. So you are asked to sit like this, your body have to take on a seductive norm, your eyes have to be seductive, your language have to be seductive, your legs are kept far wide open. So over a period of 6 years, you also are indoctrinated with a certain body language, which can become a big problem in the normal mainstream society. So if a girl is going to go and stand in a street and say like stand like this, automatically, she's going to get the wrong kind of looks on her face. So life skills becomes a very, very important thing, which is a part of the psychological recovery process. And life skills includes how do you stand, how do you sit, how do you talk, how do you slowly build a new body language which can be reintegrated in the social milieu. This has to be then combined with civic rehabilitation. Now, civic rehabilitation is about restoring your identity as a person. I could be Lakshmi here in Hyderabad. By the time I reach some other city, I could become several other names. Every time the police picks me, I would have a different name. So my different names are part of my completely, destroyed identity. So to get back anything, first of all, I need to have a name. So what gives me my name is my Aadhaar card, my voter card, So these are small things that, is kind of slowly, it's like a phoenix, bird slowly waking up to get a new, it's like a punarjanma. It's a reincarnation of a person. So the civic rehabilitation means a lot of efforts putting with the government. So new stakeholders come into the picture, fighting with the government to get her basic identity, like an Aadhaar card, like a bank account, like a voter card and things like that. That's when the person starts integrating her identity. Then you get into economic rehabilitation. So economic rehabilitation is about providing them skills that's marketable, that is employable. So Prajwala has evolved several interesting models of rehabilitation. We have gone beyond the conventional mode. We decided that we will not get into tailoring and weaving and candle making and those very, very conventional norms. We decided we want to break those shackles. In fact, we want to break every shackle that will remind them of their past life as a very powerless woman. So we started investing in creating trades which is very non-conventional, like welding for women, carpentry for women. So today our girls are trained as welders, as carpenters, as bookbinders, as organic farmers. So if you come and see our small enterprise, you will see a whole world of young girls, welding and making furnitures for big schools and the companies like that. So it acts in two ways. One, you get a skill which is employable. You can be employed anywhere with that skill. The second thing that you get is also a sense of superiority, that you're not just better than women around you, you're better than men also around you. Every time people come to visit us and go through our enterprise and they see these girls welding and doing carpentry, when their eyes like bulge out, like, oh my God, the girls are doing this. You will see that, the girls are like preening like a peacock, like, see, I'm better, not just better than any woman. So that is how we build a particular girl's confidence, because this confidence comes in a big way helpful to deal with stigma and rejection that they will face outside in the society. I can change her, but I can't change the world. That is the philosophy with which we work. So when we are doing our psychological rehabilitation, we also prepare our girls for rejection. We also prepare our girls for the larger social perception. Uh, the social perception, education has nothing to do with it. In a very important meeting, which I don't want to mention the name of the meeting, where very, very smart young business entrepreneurs, women, very proficient, uh, very, high achievers who have done very well in their life, had invited me to give a speech, and I gave a speech, and I managed to get a standing ovation from everybody but one person. This lady did not stand up. So it was like strange sitting there in that forum, because everybody stood up, only she didn't stand up. So you do notice the person who's not stood up, and I wondered whether this person is physically challenged, or does she have any other problem? Why is she not standing up? Because she was the only one who didn't stand up. And then after all this nice little clap that I got, and everybody sat down, this lady jumped and ran towards the mic, and she held on to the mic, and she said, I condemn your work. It was such a shock for me. I was like taken aback, and I said, what the hell is she talking? She says, if you're going to rehabilitate all these girls, what about the safety of my daughter? Don't you think such women are required so that my daughter can safely walk on the street? Now, this is a perception that people genuinely have. There's a whole set of people among us who believe that prostitution is a necessary evil, and that a set of women and girls are required to be sacrificed in the altar of sexual exploitation so that my daughter can walk on the street safely. This is the larger perception that we have, and that perception is also all pervasive. So what we do is, that village which rejects the girl is real to us as much as this very, proficient and so-called literate person who says that, why did you even come out? If you come out, how will my daughter be safe? So you go back to that same space, and you create a very hostile environment where I cannot even come back and start my new life. So what we have done with our girls is teach them how to deal with this rejection, help them carve their own niche. Today, in my enterprise, there are 100 girls working. But we all, every year during the season, when our business season is high, on the peak, we have poaching. We have other enterprises poaching our girls because they are such skilled workers. So create employability skills where they don't need to depend on Sunitha, Krishnan, or Prajwala to live. They will live because they are a proficiently skilled person. And that skill is genuinely required in the society. And there's no gender. You are there because you are a skilled human being, not because you're a woman, not because you're a trafficked person or you're a man. You're just there because somebody requires that skill. So today, when our girls who have learned plumbing go and do plumbing work in Residents Association, it is because they are called for their skills, not because anybody is doing any favor to Prajwala. And that is why Prajwala has never done any cost marketing. We don't believe in cost marketing. We don't want to sell any of our products saying that, oh, these are prepared by Prajwala girls, so please buy it. You buy it because the quality of the product is good. You buy it because this is worth buying, because the rates are competent in the market. So, rehabilitation is about creating an avenue where people don't become dependent on us, can stand on our own feet at their own terms, care a shit about what you think about them. I will live as a dignified, honorable person in the society because I believe in myself. And that's one thing that I learned in my own personal life. I'm the only certifying authority for myself. When I was gang raped, I was declared as the most defiled person, most dishonorable person, the person who brought great shame to my community, my family. And even today, a good number of my relatives think that why am I keep talking about that incident again and again, even after 33 years? Have I no shame? There are several NGOs who think that I'm telling the story so that I can gather more brownie points. I'm telling this story only for one reason, because in this story I learned that I can be the only certifying authority for myself. In my eyes, I'm the most honorable person. And it is in my eyes that I have to be that. I have to be the right person, the good person, the honorable person in my own eyes. And I can be the only certifying authority for my character. That is what I teach each of our girls. I tell them in million ways. Each of our team members tell them in million ways. So nobody who can decide what their character is. They are survivors. They are aparajitas, undefeatable souls. Nobody can defeat them, but they have to believe in that. And let not anybody else's statement change that for them.
That's commendable. Superb,
Yes.
just commendable.
Wow, really.
So words cannot express the regards and admiration you acclaim. You know, we can just continue listening to you for hours and hours. And as we proceed further, Sunita ji, we have Pan-India GB members and fellow chapter chairs and flow members who have joined us to ask you some questions. So I would first like to call upon Jayanti Dalmia ji, who's our Vice President, National. Please, Jayanti ji. Can we unmute Jayanti ji, please?
Sunitha ji, namaskar.
Namaskar.
It's left me totally speechless what I've been hearing from you. And just two questions are coming to my mind. I am working with differently able children, especially mentally retarded children and adults. And what do you think is the percentage of disabled girls and children who are in this, who are, the victims of this human trafficking? Is number one. And the second one is that, is there a possibility of all the NGOs who are there in India, let's say, to work together in different cities to have a larger impact? What do you think about this?
Jayanti ji, thank you so much for this question, because it was a very personally very emotional question for me, because it's a very small but very significant percentage of differently abled children and young people who are trafficked. And among them, the mentally challenged are the largest number.
Oh my God.
And that is such a frightening thing for people like us who are not special educators. We have absolutely poor skills in dealing with such children, because they have a whole world of things that they can't say, but they show it in different ways. It is heartbreaking for me to when describe the impact that multiple rapes has on a mentally challenged person, because the kind of aggression, the kind of self-harm, the kind of violence this person becomes after this ordeal is unbelievable. And there's hardly any special educators across the country who are working in this space, who would kind of help a person who's been sexually violated multiple times to regain back her thing. So it's a very, very gray domain for us. Gray domain, and I would say I feel so emotional because it's a domain where I have multiple times failed, felt very helpless, not knowing what to do. We have 3 kids, we rescued 3 kids who were mentally challenged. My team could not handle those kids. We looked around across AP, Telangana, and the entire southern states to find somebody who will not only deal with the challenges of the intellectual disability, but also the challenge of rape trauma. We couldn't really find anybody, and to every day see the pain that they're going through and the pain that they subject themselves to, and the people around them is something that is bothering me in a big way. And we are searching for answers. we're trying to see what we can do, and trying to work with several groups to help us provide that specialized support, I would say. We can provide the shelter, we can provide food, clothing, but that special care that is required for a special child is something that needs to be evolved, and it's still in its nascent stages. NGOs across the country, I would very strongly urge you all to become part of our 6-week series. We just started a 6-week series called this Reality Check as a part of our End Trafficking series, which is an online webinar. So last week, that was the first part, was with NGOs. And this week is with judges. And the next week is with police officer, where we have a very candid, introspective conversation on where we are going wrong and why can't we all come together. So last week's conversation was mind-blowing, because when we said very honest and candid, one of the things that came out of that webinar was how every NGO is now not competing to end trafficking, but competing to get the maximum amount of resources. So you're fighting among each other to see that you get the best donations and funding in, rather than fighting the problem. That is the scenario, where thanks to very limited resources, everybody is kind of eyeing the same resources, and everybody is now not fighting the problem, they're fighting each other. And it's so important that we create a very secure space for NGOs to work, so that this resource competing and this kind of tug of war between people is not happening. Yes, there is a lot of efforts going on to become a united voices. There are obviously different problems there. One of the key problem is that organizations like ours, we are not just anti-trafficking, but we are also abolitionists. That means we don't believe in prostitution at all. And we believe that prostitution is the oldest form of sex slavery. So we do not have any contradictory issues. So we fight everything together. But there are several anti-trafficking organizations who believe prostitution is fine, but trafficking is not fine. So they differentiate between the two. So then again, a break comes, because there are different ideologies working. But still, for children, all of us are on the same common platform. Everybody has the same voice. And that is the opportunity. And that is where we need to build on. We need to build on at least children can we all come together as one voice. We have several networks who have working together. We have networks within the country. We have networks between countries working. In fact, this morning, one of our webinar consultation was with our Bangladeshi counterparts, all the Indian counterparts working with Bangladesh. So we have some setup. It's not like we're not starting from scratch, but we have not yet become that powerful force, who can stand up as one united voice. And that's been my biggest anguish. Every time I speak everywhere, the traffickers are so organized. They are such a united force. You do one rescue in Delhi, you do one rescue in Delhi, you do one rescue in Mumbai. Before you blink your eyelid, the lawyers are there in the High Court here in Hyderabad. You're still in Delhi. You're still in Vani doing the rescue. And the entire setup is already ready to bail these characters out, take these people out, and take the girls back out and things like that. But we, the so-called anti-trafficking brigade, the do-gooders, we are so fragmented. The good of the world is so fragmented, fragmented through our egos, fragmented through our ignorance, fragmented through our turfs and agendas, and we are so disrespectful to each other. If the good of the world can come together and become one force, I think huge amount of good can come out of it.
Absolutely true.
I actually face the same thing in the disability sector also.
Absolutely.
So that's why I asked you this question. But definitely, I assure you, I'm going to now start working with some special educators and train them for this field and see, I can come back to you with it if I can do something about this.
Thank you, Jayanti. Thank
Let
you
me
so
try.
much.
Yeah, thank
Sunitha
you.
ji, listening to you has been such a pleasure that we didn't even realize the time. So if you don't mind, can we just take 3 quick questions from our chapter chairs, please?
I have kept up till 7 o'clock for you all, so you can take as much time.
That's so nice of you. That's
Yeah.
really kind of you. So next we have is Aarti Gupta, Chairperson Flow Kanpur chapter. Aarti, please go ahead with your question. Aarti Gupta. Okay, I think she's not here. Can we have Meenal Jain, past Chairperson Flow Jaipur and a GB member? She's there? Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't unmuted.
Hello, Narthi.
Namaste, Sunita ji. I would first of all like to salute you and express gratitude for everything that you're doing on behalf of everybody. Like majority of the people here today, you have left me absolutely speechless. My question to you is, you mentioned that there is an increase in online trafficking. What steps can we take to make people, especially young adults, more aware about the cyber crimes that is happening? And in case someone's a victim today, how should they go about it? Are there central agencies or state agencies which can help? What kind of punishment does one get for cyber crimes?
Aarti, you're not from Lucknow, right? You're wearing some nice chicken
I'm from
kurta.
Kanpur, actually.
Yeah. Is that close to Lucknow?
Yes. Just about
Yes. That's why you're wearing such lovely chicken kurtas. This one, all these northern states have such beautiful fabrics.
actually,
I get all my khadi kurtas from your cities. Cybercrime. There are 3 things that is very important that we should look at in terms of cybercrime. There's a great need for us to create 3 modules. And I will speak in modules only because those are doable things that we need to do.
Sure.
One for children, right from the age of, say, 6 years, because now everybody is online. So on what is online safety, what is mobile safety, how do you use technology, safely, is something that we need to teach our children. But teaching the children is not as much challenging as much teaching the parents and the teachers. For some reason, we, and in my generation, I'm 48, and the generation like me, we are something like 20,000 steps behind our children. My 5-year-old nephew can teach me so much more about technology than I know. So our children technologically are far ahead of us. And if we have to become somebody who can guide them rightly, we need to build our capacities for it. And I would very, very strongly recommend a proper module for parents to understand cyber crimes, not just about what is the usage of social media, but also how to use the mobile and what is mobile safety and online safety. These are such things that parents need to learn, because see, the situation that we are going through right now is there is no parental guidance on these issues is becoming scarce in the middle class and the lower middle class, because they don't know. It's a child who's showing them how to do WhatsApp. It's a child who's teaching them what to do. The third category of people who need to be equipped with this knowledge are the teachers. The teachers are not aware what all can happen, how things can happen. But most importantly, with parents, if we can train parents on creating safe conversation within your family. Right now, dealing with a case of this young girl, just 16 years old, who became friends with this very young, very good-looking guy on Instagram. And they became very close friends, and they started dating on Instagram. They haven't met each other physically at all, But this child talks to this gentleman who's around 23, 24 years old. And in the night, and with her, bed sheet on her head, she is inside talking to him, kuchikuing the whole night because now she's in love with this guy, and she's only wearing her bare minimum, and they are doing all kinds of video conversation, and it's a video call, and everything is getting recorded, and now this guy is blackmailing her with those videos, videos where she is wearing hardly anything, and so it is important that the parents need to be taught about how much of access of technology that you want to give your child. Are we going to use a mobile phone or a phone access just for communication, or are we building our entire, social life itself around that whole, technology? These are things that parents have to become very mindful about. So mindful parenting is something which is the need of the hour, and parents have to become the first persons to have very clear time demarcation where the mobiles can come and mobiles cannot come, like nobody will bring the mobile to the dining table, or nobody will take the mobile to the thing. And I've been, in the last few days, I've been thinking that thanks to all these mobiles, we have actually, destroyed our BSNLs, we have destroyed our landline, nobody now has a landline. I think like Atmanirbhar Bharat, today each one should apply for a landline for sure, and say that any conversation in the family after so-and-so time, if there is an emergency, only call on the landline, period. And all cell phones to be switched off, some, I don't know, these are just thoughts that I'm sounding it aloud, because today cybercrime is not just about trafficking. It's about revenge porn. It's about, duping through fraudulent methods, manipulation, grooming, and situations where the person is feeling guilty for a crime that she has not committed, feeling that she is the reason for it because nobody actually pushed her. She has been slowly manipulated in that situation. So I would very strongly recommend, very clear systemic modules on mobile safety and online safety. Today, cybercrime is a separate wing in the policing system. So if you have a case, if somebody is doing something to you, please go and report it to the nearest cybercrime cell. That is the most important thing that you need to know. But if you're not feeling comfortable going to a police station, thanks to Supreme Court public interest litigation that I have fought for the last 5 years, we have something called as a cybercrime portal, where you can, if you feel uncomfortable to even tell your name, that my name is so-and-so and I want to report this, you can anonymously also report it. Cybercrime portal is cybercrime.gov.in. And this is a portal where anybody can report a complaint without going to a cyber cell. And in a matter of 24 hours, the cyber cell people will contact you and take a case. Today across the country, you must know this, that you don't need to go to a police station to lodge a complaint. You can sit anywhere and lodge a complaint because there's something called as zero FIR. So zero FIR is a jurisdiction-less FIR, first information report, which you can file anywhere, and then it will be transferred to the correct jurisdiction. So today, thankfully, we have a reporting mechanism. It is not a perfect mechanism, but it is a start. So reporting it to the cybercrime cell or to the cybercrime portal are two ways to report a crime that can happen online to you. Any kind of cybercrime.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for this information.
Thank you, Aarti. Next we have is Meenal Jain, past chairperson, FLO Jaipur, and GB member.
Hi, good evening, Sunitha ji. and thank you for letting me ask this question, Riya. Sunitha ji, you inspire so many of us, everybody. You've rescued so many. What is that keeps Sunitha ji going? Who is your inspiration?
Two things. One is the smiles of the children that I have been party to rescue. The smile on each of their children that I'm blessed to see every day. That keeps me going. I mean, it can give me, I can't even describe to you the kind of energy that gives me every morning when I meet my girls and my children who have, uh, recovered, seeing their smiles, seeing their generosity of spirit to forgive the world and trust me. That keeps me, um, I can't even imagine how I can feel hopeless, seeing how they have survived. If they can survive, I can survive too. And I am constantly energized by those smiles. But also, I'm energized by my spiritual strength. I'm extremely rooted in my commune with myself. I think my greatest inspiration is me, myself. I love myself. I love the fact that I'm doing what I believe in. I'm living the life that I have chalked for myself. I love the energy I have. I love the strength I have. I love the fact that I have been able to recognize that there is something within me that can be used to change things around me. And I love the fact that I'm not deterred by any forces. And I think just the fact that I'm in love with myself is my greatest inspiration. But also having a great spouse at home who encourages and believes in that self also helps in a big way. I'm a very blessed soul. I'm a very, very blessed soul.
Thank you so much, and God bless you. More strength to you. Keep inspiring.
So, Sunitha ji, we have our last question from Malu Natrajan, Chairperson, FLO Mumbai Chapter. Malu, we can't hear you. Are you unmuted?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes. Thanks, Riya. And Sunitha, what can I say? Last person to say, so it's the same as what everyone else has said. If each of us had an iota of determination and passion to make a change like you, I think we would be in definitely a better place to live in. My question is, yeah, you did mention, and we do understand that prevention is better than rehabilitation. We need to focus on that, look at education and so on. I also understand that there are policies both at the national and international level on human trafficking. But do we have enough relief and rehabilitation process in India? Because people like you are creating a movement, you're doing the best you can, but to sustain and make it into a bigger initiative, both from prevention and from rehabilitation, is there anything that's happening today that you would like to know?
Malu, the greatest challenge in relief and rehabilitation is resources. There is not enough funding that the government has committed for relief and rehabilitation work. It's mostly the private players who are, giving whatever they're giving, which is very few. But there's also another problem. Very few players in relief and rehabilitation. Nobody wants to get into this work.
That's true.
It is not an easy thing. There are more people, and if you've been watching all the webinars in the virtual space in the last 5 months, you see a dime to dozen organizations you're claiming to be anti-trafficking. But ask them what have they done and what are they doing. They're mostly doing webinars and they're doing these virtual engagements. There's a whole world of people giving speeches everywhere. But how many people are involved in rescue work? How many people are involved in rehabilitation work? How many people are running shelters with proper standards of care. You have all kinds of offenders today running shelters to exploit young girls and force them into the same space. You have all the wrong kind of characters doing this. Where are the right people doing it? The right people do not want to do this because it is so much of effort. It is, for the last 25 years, one has never slept a full sleep. If you ask me what is one of my aspirations, it will be a 10-hour sleep properly, just nice sleep, and maybe read one nice MNB. I love MNBs, and I yearn for foreign travel. I really yearn for foreign travel, not because I like any foreign country, because I don't like any foreign countries, because I'm like one, really finicky South Indian character who wants my sambar rice and my tair sadam every day. Every minute of the day, you give me morning, evening, night, I'm happy to eat it. And anything like, all these, vegetarian in Western terms is leaves. I can't handle any of those leaves. I need my normal spices and everything, and very spicy food. I'm a hardcore mallu, that too, so. But I yearn for foreign travels because I can then travel by flight, which is 10 hours and 12 hours, and I can sleep, and there will not be anybody to call me on the flight. Why? And of course, whatever sleep, 1 hour or 1.5 hours, I sleep 2.5 hours a day every day. The 2.5 hours I sleep a very contented sleep, but I sleep only for 2.5 hours, largely because you have to be on call anytime. Anything can go wrong anytime. When I say 600 lives are there in my 4 shelters, it means that among them, there are 100 of them who are HIV positive, and they could anytime have a health emergency and that they may die. There might be some 10 or 15 characters who are pregnant, who might need delivery anytime. So any minute of the day, things are changing. So you have to be on your guard, and you don't have really time to do, storytelling. So thanks to all these challenges in running relief and rehabilitation work, there are very few real, genuine workers working in the sector. In both Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, we are one universal dumping lot. Anywhere any rescue happens, Prajwala. In Mumbai, if you see, there's hardly 2 organizations doing what they're doing. I wouldn't say even 2, there's only 1. In Pune, there's 1, So any rescue happen, you're just putting. Suppose it happens in Indore or Lucknow, there is not even any good rehabilitation home there, So the fact that, there is a dearth of resources, but also there is a dearth of human beings who will feel motivated and encouraged to enter relief and rehabilitation work, and there is a big need for us, for organizations to join hands. End of the day, you can do any amount of rescues, but if you don't have good homes, each of the girls rescued will be re-trafficked, and the cycle will continue. If you have to break the cycle, you have to set up proper protection services, safe shelters, therapeutic communities, which will help to break that chain so that no girl goes back to the same situation again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sunitha ji. After hearing about your challenging and inspiring journey, we not only feel proud, but are also filled with gratitude for all that you have contributed in making our society a better place for women to live. A special mention to my senior vice chair, FLO Indore, Meetu Kohli, to get Sunitha ji on board today. On that note, I request our FLO National President, Ms. Jahnabi Phookan, to present her concluding remarks.
Yeah. Sunitha, there is so many aspects to this. It is overwhelming. When we first started the FLO Northeast chapter, that was in 2007, and I was asked from the center that what is the national policy that FLO had? It was female feticide. But I said, where I come from, it was really human trafficking. and not treaticide wasn't our problem in Assam. Then we started looking at all the sex trafficked homes, the shelter homes. And there I did find that we had the women who were rescued and brought back, and that NGO called Gold, still associated with Gold. But yes, I do realize the situation that there's such few rehabilitation homes, that really that whole cycle and the chain, and he also spoke about the lack of funds, lack of more good people coming in, and the frightening thing that the wrong people are in this, where they are exploiting the children all over again. This is a very serious issue. It is, how many Sunitas can do this, and how many others can, how many organizations? What is good? This is needs more thinking. So next, for your webinars, please do, let us know. I think we should all participate more in it. From my side, I can say from our side in Flow, that when we talked about the rehabilitation and the skill development for the girls we've spoken about, that was something we had done that time in 2007. Now we are running we would be very keen to take up the sensitization program that you spoke about for the young boys, because we've been happy with the help of our past president. In fact, Namita Gautam, who just spoken, we are running this course for ITI. We have 1,000 students starting from 14 September. And there will be a series of online programs. So definitely we will bring in sensitization there. And the fact that what we see, our responsibility as civic society, it can't just depend on the government or the NGOs. All of us are responsible. When you spoke about mindful parenting, these are what all of us in Flow, the 8,000 women, we should also take cognizance of. And whatever we can train, educate in our way, in all our projects around the country, this must come to the forefront. And the more of media engagement, I guess, that these stories, these horrific stories must get more and more reported and talked about. Instead of being sensationalized, are they looking at the human aspect of it? So I realize it's a huge thing that you're fighting so many demons. And we'll have another conversation on this again, because we also want to see practically what else can we, the people, also bring in here. So, and what you've taught, despite everything else, you've taught all your people not to harbor bitterness, to forgive. That is a huge thing, to be able to forgive and to give that smile back on children, so that that emotional scarring you've tried to save them from and empower them from within. That is a huge learning, and I really salute you, Sunitha, for that. And we hope that this is a learning for all of us. We've always known the trafficking, there's a problem, but to hear it up front with you, and we must hear it more and more. It's not a story that we can listen today and go back. All of us have to feel responsible and think well on this, and see whatever way, in our own way, that we can also contribute, and we will seek your guidance on this. So I would like to say that on behalf of all of us, the 8,000 women of Flow, we stand really humbled before you. And I will ask Riya to take the next step. Thank you.
Now I would invite Flow National Vice President, Ms. Jayanti Dalmia, to deliver her formal vote of thanks. Yes, perfect.
Sunitha ji, I'm totally speechless and shocked and horrified with what I've heard. I really thank you for being with us and sharing with us your incredible journey. As the poet Atticus said about women, she was powerful, not because she wasn't scared, but because she went on and so strongly despite the fear. You are strong, confident, courageous, and this powerful session will serve us as a perfect reminder of the strength that lies within us as women. You have stood up the grave injustices towards women and children, and your journey is all about rescuing them and helping them rebuild their lives, and how beautifully you've rebuilt their lives. It's really inspiring. Flo salutes your fortitude and your fearlessness. It was really fabulous listening to you, Sunitha ji. And I'll try and work something for special children, definitely. Let me see what we can do. And catch up with you on that. I thank Riya Chhabra, Chairperson FLO Indore chapter, for putting this session together. Sincere gratitude to all past presidents, chapter chairs, and governing body members for being with us. Thank you all for joining us. Namaskar.
Thank you.